If there was ever a ceremony that gave us lots of candidates for the elusive Oscar, it was the 61st Academy Awards on March 29th, 1989. This was the night Rain Man won 4 of the night's top 8 awards: Best Original Screenplay, Best Actor, Best Director, and Best Picture. And Kevin Kline won a Rare Acting Oscar for a comedic performance in the Best Supporting Actor category for A Fish Called Wanda. And Best Actress Jodie Foster won for The Accused, beating out Glenn Close on her 5th Oscar nomination for Dangerous Liaisons. Close has received 8 Academy Award nods to date and has still never won. Therefore, Glenn Close and the elusive Oscar was born. Jodie Foster also beat out Sigourney Weaver, who was nominated for Gorillas in the Mist. Weaver had been nominated for Aliens in 1987, and on this night in 1989, she was double nominated for Gorillas in the Mist in Lead Actress and for Working Girl in Supporting Actress. Weaver lost there as well to Geena Davis for The Accidental Tourist. Weaver has also still to date never won an Academy Award, so thus Sigourney Weaver and the elusive Oscar was born. What other nominated actors that night could I make an elusive Oscar video about? Gene Hackman? Definitely not. Tom Hanks? No. Frances McDormand? Yeah, I don't think so. I could make a video about Joan Cusack, who was nominated that night for her glorious comedic performance in Working Girl, and who was nominated 9 years later for her stellar comedic turn in and Out, opposite Kevin Kline. I could happily spend 10 minutes talking about why she deserved a 3rd Oscar nod for her spectacular performance in Addams Family Values.
Malibu Barbie.
But that video can be made another day. Right now, it's time to talk about another person who was nominated for Best Supporting Actress at the 1989 Academy Awards. Another person who lost to Geena Davis for The Accidental Tourist. This incredible artist has received 3 Oscar nominations to date, and I think should have gotten at least 3 more. She's had an extraordinary career in film, going back more than 40 years. She's won a BAFTA award, she's won a Golden Globe Award, she's been nominated at SAG and Critics' Choice, and the Emmys, and she's of course, in her own words,
I am Catwoman. Hear me roar.
Yes, as they say, better late than never, because it's finally time to talk the one and only Michelle Pfeiffer. What films was she nominated for, and who did she lose to? What roles has she had throughout the decades that should have brought her Oscar glory, and yet didn't? Why the hell does this amazing woman, one of my favorite actresses of all time, still not have an Academy Award? Sit back, relax. It's time for Michelle Pfeiffer and the elusive Oscar. First, let's go back to the beginning. Michelle Marie Pfeiffer was born on April 29, 1958, in Santa Ana, California, to mother Donna and father Richard. Soon after graduating high school in 1976, she won the Miss Orange County Beauty Pageant and participated in the Miss California contest, finishing in 6th place. Her participation in these beauty pageants got her an acting agent, and she started auditioning for film and television. There was a push for Pfeiffer in the beginning to change her name, but she refused, as she talked about recently on The Drew Barrymore Show.
The EI, the double F, it was just all too much for them, I guess.
What made you stick to your guns about that?
I'm kind of willful.
Her acting debut came in 1978 when she appeared in the TV series Fantasy Island. Other TV projects followed, like Chips and Delta House, and her first roles in film came in 1980 with The Hollywood Knights, starring Tony Danza, as well as Charlie Chan and The Curse of the Dragon Queen. Her initial efforts were met with mostly a shrug, and weren't getting her much attention. After making 3 TV movies in 1981, her career not able to reach that next level, Pfeiffer's first big break came in 1982 with her starring role in the musical flop sequel, Grease 2.
You know, I usually don't do this bad in English. It's just like other stuff on my mind these days.
Anything I can help you with?
No, it's not with school. Forget it. Let's just get this stuff over with.
You could argue this was a break for Pfeiffer because for the first time she was the star of a high-profile theatrical release. But it also wasn't the greatest break in the world because her association with the box office disaster meant for a short while that nobody wanted to hire her. Her agent admitted such things, and Brian De Palma, who at the time was casting his upcoming Scarface, starring Al Pacino, refused at first to even audition Pfeiffer because he had seen Grease 2, and instead had Glenn Close in mind for the part. It was Scarface's producer Martin Bregman who insisted Diplomacy Pfeiffer, thinking she might be perfect for Elvira, the classic blonde beauty at the center of the movie. As it turned out, Bregman was right.
You want a kid?
Delaware.
What kind of a father do you think you are?
Come on.
Are you gonna drive him to school in the mornings? Are you even gonna be alive by the time the kid goes to school?
She eventually got the part, and thank God. This was a tremendous performance, a lived-in performance. She holds her own against the almighty Al Pacino and gives Elvira a complicated, fascinating quality. Elvira in Scarface was the key role that helped boost Pfeiffer's career because after this, she quickly became a leading lady in films, a full-blown movie star. In 1985, she appeared opposite Jeff Goldblum in Into the Night and opposite Matthew Broderick in Lady Hawk. Neither of these films brought any awards attention to Pfeiffer, but they were both big studio movies that got lots of eyeballs on the burgeoning superstar. And hey, there is one big celebrity fan of Into the Night.
Oh my God, I love that movie. I've seen that movie like 6 times.
Get out!
Don't you hear that from people? From real cinephiles?
Her first big box office hit came in 1987 when Pfeiffer appeared alongside Cher, Susan Sarandon, and Jack Nicholson in The Witches of Eastwick, directed by George Miller.
Maybe we can help. Maybe we could put her out of her misery. Jane, don't. Oh, please, all of this moaning, they're lucky to have each other. If they don't appreciate that, I have no sympathy for them.
It was one of the first times Pfeiffer was singled out by a lot of the critics, proving like she did in Scarface that she can hold her own against acting titans. Pfeiffer showed off her comedic chops, a flair for fantasy filmmaking. She is a delight in the movie, giving viewers a preview of some truly extraordinary performances in the years to come. One such year was the next one, 1988, which gave us 3 Michelle Pfeiffer movies, each one Oscar nominated, each one successful, each one made in a different genre that showed audiences so many exciting shades of Pfeiffer's talent. The first was Tequila Sunrise, which teamed Pfeiffer with Mel Gibson and Kurt Russell. Reportedly, she experienced creative differences with the director Robert Towne, but her performance still shined through. The film was a big box office success and went on to earn an Oscar nomination for Best Cinematography. The second 1988 film to discuss is Married to the Mob, directed by Jonathan Demme, which gave Pfeiffer an against-type comedic role as a murdered gangster's widow.
And we are your friends, Angela, whether you like it or not. I'm gonna go check on my mother-in-law.
Dean Stockwell received an Oscar nomination in the Best Supporting Actor category for his inspired turn. For her performance, Pfeiffer received her first Golden Globe Award nomination for Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy, beginning a stunning 6-year streak of consecutive Best Actress nods at the Globes. Melanie Griffith won in the category for Working Girl, and Pfeiffer wasn't even there, but as it turned out, she had bigger awards events to attend in the weeks to come, because her third film of 1988 was Dangerous Liaisons, starring Glenn Close and John Malkovich, the film telling of a scheming widow and her ex-lover who make a bet regarding the corruption of a recently married woman, played by Pfeiffer.
You're only 5 minutes late, but I get so frightened. I become convinced I'm never going to see you again.
Angel.
Is it like that for you too?
This, I would argue, was Pfeiffer's dramatic cinema breakthrough, a fully realized character with an inner life, vulnerability, hopes and dreams. Her scenes with Malkovich crackle with intensity. Dangerous Liaisons opened late in the year, entering limited release on December 21st, and then not going wide until the end of February 1989. The film was completely overlooked at the Golden Globes, but then awards momentum started picking up, Stephen Frears winning Best Director from the Boston Society of Film Critics, and Christopher Hampton winning Best Adapted Screenplay at WGA. With the total shutout at Golden Globes, one might think the Oscars might have followed suit, or maybe just thrown the film a nomination or two. As it turned out, Dangerous Liaisons overperformed at the 61st Academy Awards with 7 nominations total, including Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Actress for Glenn Close, and Best Supporting Actress for Michelle Pfeiffer. In just a few short years, Pfeiffer had gone from the main girl in Grease 2 to a box office superstar and an acclaimed actress with her first Oscar nomination. Did she have a chance to win on that first time around? We talked about the Best Supporting Actress category at the 1989 Academy Awards last December in Sigourney Weaver and the Elusive Oscar, where Weaver was the frontrunner to take the prize after her win in the category at the Golden Globes. Working Girl made it into Best Picture and Best Director, and Weaver was double nominated that night for Working Girl in Supporting Actress and Gorillas in the Mist in Lead Actress. Lead Actress was the more competitive category, so Supporting Actress seemed the place to award Weaver. I would say Joan Cusack and Frances McDormand had almost no chance in winning, but Michelle Pfeiffer, she absolutely had a path to victory. Her movie got into Best Picture, Glenn Close was nominated in Best Actress, and Dangerous Liaisons did win a few things that night: Best Art Direction, Best Costume Design, and Best Adapted Screenplay, which showed there was a lot of enthusiasm for the film from the Academy. On paper, it looks like this category comes down to Weaver or Pfeiffer, possibly tipping in Pfeiffer's favor, given her film was an historical drama and Weaver's film was a modern-day comedy. But then Geena Davis won for The Accidental Tourist. This victory has always been slightly baffling to me, considering this was Davis's first nomination, like Pfeiffer's, and she wasn't nominated anywhere else the entire award season. The Accidental Tourist did get a Best Picture nomination, and Davis has a very large role in the film. As later Oscar winners like Jennifer Connelly in A Beautiful Mind have proven, sometimes lots of screen time can help you win in Best Supporting Actress. But just imagine if Weaver had won that night instead for Best Supporting Actress. No elusive Oscar video needed. Imagine if Glenn Close had won in Lead Actress that night for Dangerous Liaisons instead of Jodie Foster for The Accused. Scratch that elusive Oscar video. And imagine if Michelle Pfeiffer had won her Oscar the following year when she was on her second nomination for what many consider to be her best performance ever. Pfeiffer's busiest time in the awards gauntlet was indeed between 1989 and 1990, starting with her first Oscar nomination for Dangerous Liaisons and ending with her second Oscar nomination for her bravura, delicious starring turn in The Fabulous Baker Boys, co-starring Beau Bridges and Jeff Bridges. The film tells of two struggling brother musicians who team up with an up-and-coming singer, Susie Diamond, played by Pfeiffer.
I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be here.
Pfeiffer underwent voice training for 4 months to play the hard-edged former call girl turned singer, and her portrayal received near unanimous praise from critics. Roger Ebert comparing Pfeiffer to Rita Hayworth in Gilda, and saying The Fabulous Baker Boys would be a movie they will use as a document years from now when they begin to trace the steps by which Pfeiffer became a great star. She is phenomenal in the film. She works so well off of Beau Bridges and Jeff Bridges. In early 1990 at the 62nd Academy Awards, Michelle Pfeiffer came the closest she ever has, before or since, to winning that elusive Oscar for The Fabulous Baker Boys. She was nominated for the second year in a row, this time in the Lead Actress category, and she had actually won a few big prizes along the way to Oscar night. Pfeiffer won Best Actress from the New York Film Critics Circle, Los Angeles Film Critics, and National Board of Review, and she won Best Actress in a Motion Picture Drama at the Golden Globes, beating out such heavyweight performances as Sally Field in Steel Magnolias and Andie MacDowell for Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Pfeiffer's speech is a great one.
Thank you, Stephen Clovis, for writing a wonderful script and a beautiful and fascinating woman for me to play, and directing me so beautifully.
And then along the way to the 1990 Oscars, a funny thing happened. Michelle Pfeiffer won the BAFTA award, not for The Fabulous Baker Boys, mind you, but for Dangerous Liaisons. The film that earned Pfeiffer her first Oscar nomination a year prior didn't get released overseas until 1989, and so the performance she won the BAFTA prize for that season was Dangerous Liaisons. But still, that had to boost her chances too, Pfeiffer winning things left and right. By the time we got to the Academy Awards on March 26, 1990, Pfeiffer really just had only one major competitor in her path to Oscar victory, Jessica Tandy for Driving Miss Daisy. Tandy had won the Golden Globe for Best Actress in the Comedy or Musical category, and her film was outperforming The Fabulous Baker Boys in every way, winning PGA and WGA awards and receiving 9 Oscar nominations total, including Best Supporting Actor for Dan Aykroyd, Best Actor for Morgan Freeman, and Best Picture. The Fabulous Baker Boys, outside of the Pfeiffer performance, didn't make a huge dent that award season, only getting into cinematography, film editing, and original score at the Oscars alongside Best Actress. I don't think the other 3 nominees in her category could have won, Isabella Johnny for Camille Claudel, Pauline Collins for Shirley Valentine, and Jessica Lange for Music Box. Those films were just a little too under the radar to ever be serious contenders, but Tandy was always going to be a hard one for Pfeiffer to beat at that year's Oscars. She was the beloved seasoned veteran with a career in film going back to the 1930s, and she had one of the most crowd-pleasing hits of the year with Driving Miss Daisy, that both audiences and critics adored. At the Oscars, her movie won Best Makeup, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Picture. Yeah, Tandy wasn't losing this one. If Driving Miss Daisy had come out a year earlier, or a year after, I think Pfeiffer wins the Oscar here. But Tandy was ultimately just too good to pass up, and she became, at the age of 80, the oldest Best Actress Oscar winner ever, a record that still holds to this day. So what came next for Michelle Pfeiffer? Turns out, a lot. The 1990s were by far the most prolific of her acting career, Pfeiffer appearing in 14 movies between 1990 and 1999, some more successful and better reviewed than others. The question was, which film was going to get Pfeiffer her third Oscar nomination and potentially her first win? She started the decade by earning $1 million per film, the first movie of which was the 1990 drama The Russia House, co-starring Sean Connery, an end-of-the-year release with a strong director and writers and potential for Oscar glory. But the critics were only so-so on the movie, which turned into a box office disappointment, and the only major nomination it got in early 1991 was at the Golden Globes for Michelle Pfeiffer in the Best Actress in a Motion Picture Drama category. She lost to Kathy Bates, who went on to win the Academy Award for her spectacular performance in Misery. Also in early 1991, Pfeiffer received her second and to date final BAFTA nomination for The Fabulous Baker Boys, which must have been released overseas in 1990. She lost the award once again to Jessica Tandy for Driving Miss Daisy. Later in 1991, she had another awards-buzzy title, Frankie and Johnny, which reunited Pfeiffer with her Scarface co-star Al Pacino. Directed by Gary Marshall, Frankie and Johnny is based on a play that starred, of all people, Kathy Bates. Some saw the casting as controversial, given that Bates had been acclaimed in the role on stage, but the producers went with a more beautiful Pfeiffer, which Bates was rightfully disappointed by. Although, as Pfeiffer talked about on Inside the Actor's Studio, the plainness of the role is what attracted her to the part.
It was really exciting, the opportunity to play a character that you wouldn't normally think of me.
Like the previous years of The Russia House, the film got decent, if not great reviews, and did just okay at the box office. Still, the film won a BAFTA award for Kate Nelligan in the Best Supporting Actress category, and Pfeiffer once again received a Golden Globe nomination, this time in the comedy or musical category. She was like the year before up against Angelica Houston and Kathy Bates, but this time she lost to Bette Midler in For the Boys. But where was her next Oscar nomination? What film was going to take her past the Globes all the way to the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion? Did you know it could have been The Silence of the Lambs? Before Jodie Foster jumped on board the project, director Jonathan Demme originally offered the role of Clarice Starling to Michelle Pfeiffer, who he had worked with on Married to the Mob. Pfeiffer considered the part, but ultimately turned it down, as she discussed in this 1992 interview with Barbara Walters.
That was really a difficult decision, but I got nervous about the subject matter.
Are you sorry now that you turned it down?
Mm-mm.
She says she doesn't regret her decision, but it must have been difficult for Pfeiffer, at least to some extent, to watch Foster collect her second Best Actress Oscar for a role that could have been hers. Thankfully, Pfeiffer didn't have to wait too long for Oscar nomination number 3. The time came with the help from a small historical drama called Love Field, about a hairstylist who boards a bus to attend President John F. Kennedy's funeral and meets a father and his daughter who affect her along the way.
I thought we understood each other. Well, we're both running, aren't we? We're both wanting something more.
Don't you dare think that we're the same.
Love Field honestly barely got a theatrical release, quietly entering a handful of theaters in December 1992 before going wider in February 1993. The reviews were mostly lackluster, and the box office was a disaster, the movie earning just $1 million on an $18 million budget. And yet somehow, some way, Michelle Pfeiffer made it in at the Oscars. First came yet another nomination at the Golden Globes for Best Actress in a Motion Picture Drama, where this time she lost to Emma Thompson for Howard's End. Pfeiffer won Best Actress for Love Field at the Berlin International Film Festival, and then there must have been enough goodwill from her previous 2 Oscar nominations to get Pfeiffer into the Best Actress category at the Academy Awards. Now, unlike the previous 2 times, sadly, Pfeiffer had 0 shot at a win on her 3rd Oscar nomination. Pfeiffer was Love Field's only Oscar nod, and Emma Thompson just had the win in the bag that year for Howard's End, a film that did extremely well throughout that award season, earning 9 Oscar nominations total, including Best Picture and Best Director, and winning 3 Best Actress for Thompson, as well as Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Art Direction Set Direction. Now, if Emma Thompson hadn't been in the category, maybe Pfeiffer could have had a shot, given that the other 3 people nominated for Best Actress in early 1993 didn't have much of a chance of winning either: Catherine Deneuve, Mary McDonnell, and Susan Sarandon. But yeah, with Emma Thompson in the category for Howard's End, she was simply unbeatable. It actually kind of baffles me Pfeiffer made it in this year for 3 main reasons. First, her movie wasn't well received, and it bombed at the box office. Second, Geena Davis, I think, was much more deserving of a Best Actress Oscar nomination for her memorable work in A League of Their Own, a well-reviewed box office smash that outrageously received 0 Oscar nominations. The third reason is that Pfeiffer was infinitely better in another 1992 movie, and it's one she absolutely should have received an Oscar nomination for. It's my favorite Michelle Pfeiffer performance, and I think the most iconic: Catwoman in Batman Returns.
Meow.
This is the first movie I ever saw Michelle Pfeiffer in. I was 7 years old, probably way too young to see this dark comic book adaptation, but oh my god, did I love every minute. And there was nothing I loved more than the Selina Kyle Catwoman character brought so vividly to life by the great Michelle Pfeiffer. Annette Bening was originally cast in the role, but she had to drop out, as Pfeiffer talked about recently on Jimmy Fallon.
Someone was cast before me, Annette Bening, who's wonderful.
Wow.
And then she got pregnant. Awesome.
Yeah.
And then I got the part. I got the part.
So Pfeiffer stepped in, and one of the great comic book movie performances ever was born. Batman Returns is still to date the best Batman movie behind The Dark Knight, at least in my eyes. I love the art direction, the cinematography, the Christmas backdrop, the Danny Elfman music. The characters are so unique, especially Christopher Walken's Max Schreck and Danny DeVito's the Penguin. But it's Pfeiffer's extraordinary turn as Selina Kyle turned Catwoman that is the film's greatest achievement. She's a natural comedienne in the film's early scenes, then she turns darkly funny and super twisted the moment she becomes Catwoman. Pfeiffer manages to shine through that tight costume in one scene after another, and her romantic chemistry with Michael Keaton, both in and outside the costume, is off the charts. This is one of the great Michelle Pfeiffer performances, and if Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix could both win Oscars for playing the Joker, I think Pfeiffer at least should have been nominated for playing Catwoman. The film did get 2 Oscar nominations for makeup and visual effects, but a nod for Pfeiffer would have been an amazing all-timer. Her 1993 project looked to be a shoo-in for lots of Oscar nominations, including Michelle Pfeiffer for Best Actress, The Age of Innocence, directed by Martin Scorsese. This historical drama, based on the novel by Edith Wharton, tells of a lawyer who falls in love with a woman separated from her husband while he's engaged to that woman's cousin.
I must go where I'm invited, or I should be too lonely. Why not come with me?
The film brought Scorsese together with an absurdly gifted ensemble of actors, including Pfeiffer, Daniel Day-Lewis, and Winona Ryder. In 1993, Scorsese talked about the magic of Pfeiffer on The Charlie Rose Show.
She seems to change with every part.
Yeah.
And she's really, the quality of her face is someone described as luminous in this particular film, especially Age of Innocence.
With the fall release date and Scorsese's stunning track record with the Academy Awards, was this the project that was finally going to win Pfeiffer the Oscar? Well, despite rave reviews from critics, The Age of Innocence floundered a bit at the box office, and it only did so-so at the precursor ceremonies. This was 1993, remember, the year of Schindler's List and The Piano, and Philadelphia, and The Remains of the Day, and just so many acclaimed dramas that it was hard to stand out from the crowd. Also complicating matters was Daniel Day-Lewis having another drama, In the Name of the Father, that was getting awards buzz at the same time as The Age of Innocence. I wonder if Scorsese's film had opened in 1992 or 1994, if it had done better during award season, but with its release in 1993, it just did okay. It picked up 4 Golden Globe nominations, including Best Motion Picture Drama, Best Director, and Best Actress for Pfeiffer. Yes, if you're keeping track, that's a lead actress Golden Globe nomination 6 years in a row. She lost to Holly Hunter for The Piano. What happened in early 1994 with The Age of Innocence really was that the awards spotlight was turned not onto Pfeiffer, but onto Winona Ryder, who won the Golden Globe that year for Best Supporting Actress. She was the one who got in at BAFTA and the Academy Awards, not Pfeiffer, and with her win at the Golden Globes, Ryder had a pretty good shot at the Oscar win, but then she lost to Anna Paquin in The Piano. Ryder got another nomination the following year at the Academy Awards for Little Women, but she lost there to Jessica Lange for Blue Sky, and shockingly, she's never been nominated since. Winona Ryder and the elusive Oscar, anyone? So in a way, The Age of Innocence ended a remarkable run of 6 years for Michelle Pfeiffer, being nominated for things left and right, all the time, winning a couple big prizes along the way, many of her movies getting in at the Oscars, even if she didn't. She was just surrounded by great actors, great directors, great material, and it's not to say that she wasn't surrounded by all these things for the rest of the 1990s, but nothing she did the rest of the decade, sadly, got her any closer to Oscar victory. 1994's Wolf, which re-teamed Michelle Pfeiffer with Jack Nicholson and was directed by Mike Nichols, definitely had lots of talent going for it, but it mostly crashed and burned with critics and audiences. 1995's Dangerous Minds is a favorite for many, and it marked one of Pfeiffer's biggest hits ever, raking in $180 million worldwide on just a $23 million budget. But critics at the time dismissed the movie as run-of-the-mill cornball, and outside of the Blockbuster and MTV Movie Awards, Pfeiffer went overlooked come awards time. The second half of the decade, Pfeiffer appeared in a whopping 7 movies, 8 if you include The Prince of Egypt. 3 of these movies came out in 1996, and 3 of them were released in 1999. Only one of these movies could be considered a success, and that's One Fine Day, which was a hit with audiences during the 1996 Christmas season, making $100 million worldwide. But films like Up Close and Personal, The Story of Us, A Midsummer Night's Dream, to Jillian on her 37th birthday, these weren't doing wonders for Pfeiffer's career at the time. She received decent reviews for films like 1997's 1,000 Acres and 1999's The Deep End of the Ocean, but the simple truth of the matter is that none of these movies was getting any real traction for awards. Her first film of the 2000s is one of my guilty pleasure Pfeiffer movies, What Lies Beneath, starring Harrison Ford and directed by Robert Zemeckis.
You think you're smart, don't you? You think you got away with it? Well, I know you killed her, you murdering son of a bitch!
This one isn't so great on rewatches, I'll admit that, but in the summer of the year 2000, it was an entertaining roller coaster ride with some fun twists and turns and a terrific Pfeiffer performance. She told Drew Barrymore on her show that it was Barrymore's performance in Scream that gave her inspiration for her turn in What Lies Beneath.
Your terror was so it was so real. It was so real. And I thought, oh, that's it.
2001's I Am Sam got Sean Penn an Oscar nomination, but not Pfeiffer, who was ignored for yet another solid performance. The closest Pfeiffer has come to another Oscar nomination since Love Field, I would say, is her 2002 drama, White Oleander, about a teenager who goes through a series of foster homes after her mother is taken to prison.
Don't forget who you are, Astrid. You're my daughter and you're perfect, remember?
This was Pfeiffer's strongest film performance at the time, and it rightfully earned her some critics' prizes that season, along with the Screen Actors Guild Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress. Unfortunately, the movie was just never fully embraced by critics or audiences, and without any support from other precursor ceremonies, Pfeiffer didn't make it into the Supporting Actress Final 5 at the Oscars. After her voice appearance in 2003's Sinbad Legend of the Seven Seas, Pfeiffer took a 4-year break from acting to focus on her family, but she came roaring back in 2007 with 3 films, my favorite of which is the musical adaptation of Hairspray, directed by Adam Shankman. Pfeiffer plays the racist TV station manager, Velma Von Tussle.
Is this not a black and tan cocktail?
Well, why couldn't it be? Velma, isn't this where it's all heading anyway?
Maybe it is time for some fresh ideas, like a nice, fresh new host.
Pfeiffer had not let loose like this in a movie for the longest time, and it marked one of her best performances of the decade. The film got some love that next award season, mainly at SAG, which nominated Hairspray for its top prize of Best Ensemble, but the movie went overlooked at the Oscars, and Pfeiffer, who gave another great villainous turn around the same time in the fantasy film Stardust, watched herself get passed over yet again. Pfeiffer got some strong critical notices early on for her leading role in 2009's Sherry, but no award nominations followed. She reteamed with her Batman Returns director Tim Burton for the 2012 adaptation of Dark Shadows, but awards didn't exactly follow that project either. The Family in 2013 brought Pfeiffer together with Robert De Niro for the first time on screen after appearing separately in both Stardust and New Year's Eve, but The Family didn't do well either with critics or at the box office. Finally, in 2017, Pfeiffer returned with four, count them four, awards-buzzy projects that delivered for her, at least to some extent. The first was Murder on the Orient Express, which featured a stunning ensemble cast. Pfeiffer singled out by many critics as giving one of the finest performances in the film. The second was Where is Kira, which had a very quiet release, but did get strong notices for Pfeiffer's performance, including a Gotham Award nomination for Best Actress. The third was The Wizard of Lies, where she worked with Robert De Niro again in the true story about the fall of Bernie Madoff. The HBO TV movie, which saw Pfeiffer play Bernie's wife Ruth Madoff, gave Pfeiffer her first Golden Globe nomination since The Age of Innocence way back in 1994, in the supporting actress in a series, limited series, or TV movie category. She lost to Laura Dern for Big Little Lies. Pfeiffer was also nominated at Critics' Choice, and she received what is to date her only Primetime Emmy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress in a limited series or movie. She again lost to Laura Dern. Her fourth project around that time that gave Pfeiffer some early awards buzz was her supporting performance in Mother, starring Jennifer Lawrence and directed by Darren Aronofsky.
I know what it's like when you're just starting out and you think you have all the time in the world. And, you know, you're not going to be so young forever.
In the fall of 2017, nobody really knew how the supporting actress category was going to shake out at the Golden Globes, SAG, and Academy Awards, but one name being bounced around was Pfeiffer's, who had the potential to break back into the Oscars with a memorable supporting turn in Aronofsky's divisive film. I love Pfeiffer in this movie. She's cold and confident, very mysterious. If the movie had been better received, she could have had a shot at her fourth Oscar nomination, but unfortunately the movie just didn't sit well with most critics and audiences, and after receiving a rare F cinema score, Mother quietly faded from memory. Since 2017, Pfeiffer has mostly appeared in major Disney properties, like the last two Ant-Man and the Wasp movies, and Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. She's terrific as Betty Ford in the Showtime series The First Lady, co-starring Viola Davis and Gillian Anderson. For her performance, she received a Critics' Choice nomination, but her best film role of the last 5 years easily was the quirky 2020 comedy drama French Exit, about an aging Manhattan socialite existing on the last of her inheritance who moves to a small apartment in Paris.
I've never been so hurt by something in my life as when I saw your face for the first time.
Co-starring Lucas Hedges and Tracy Letts, this very entertaining film marked a superb Pfeiffer performance that was on the level of some of her best work in movies in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Pfeiffer earned yet another Golden Globe nomination, this time for Best Actress in a Motion Picture Musical or Comedy, losing to Rosamund Pike for I Care a Lot. Ultimately, French Exit just didn't get seen by enough people, didn't get into enough precursor ceremonies for Pfeiffer to ever to be seriously considered for her fourth Oscar nomination. But what French Exit proved is that Pfeiffer can still bring it, that she still has endless amounts of talent, presence, and charisma, and with the right role, she can deliver on all three. What an extraordinary career. What an amazing actress. Michelle Pfeiffer, has been so good for so many decades, and she really should have won an Academy Award by now. Who has the role and project to make this finally happen for Pfeiffer? I look at Jamie Lee Curtis's win this year for Everything Everywhere All at Once in Best Supporting Actress and think, okay, well, what about Glenn Close? What about Sigourney Weaver? What about Michelle Pfeiffer? She is one of the finest actors of her generation, and I want to see her find her well past due Oscar glory. She has a project in pre-production right now called Wild 4 O'Clocks and is reportedly attached to an Annette Bening thriller called Turn of the Mind. We'll see what happens with those. She just appeared in, of course, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which isn't going to do her career any favors. Come on, please! Somebody craft a spectacular role for Pfeiffer, one that she can really sink her teeth into, one that can show everything she's been great at for more than 40 years, one that the Academy won't be able to ignore. Michelle Pfeiffer, you are truly one of a kind, one of my favorite actresses in the industry, and I'm crossing my fingers that your elusive Oscar is coming. Hopefully, a whole lot sooner than we think. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to vote on who gets to be the next elusive Oscar subject, head on over to the Patreon at patreon.com/BrianRoweVideo to make your voice heard. We'll see you next time.